I grew up in an environment full of love. Only because my parents constantly flaunted their affection in the family group chat in every possible way. My mom would send pictures of her passionately kissing her boy toy, while my dad would reply with a wedding photo of himself and the college girl he was sugar daddying. Yet even so, they refused to divorce, all because they wanted to give me a complete home. But recently, things took a turn. My mom's true love came back from the dead, and my dad's true love also returned to the country. Our happy family was on the verge of breaking apart. They began talking about divorce, but both wanted custody of me. In court, my mom pulled out a scalpel, ready to sterilize herself, and my dad pulled out scissors, ready for self-castration. Their love for me moved me to tears. Chapter 1. When my grandma ran into us, I was reading a picture book, and my mom was kissing her new flame. My grandma got so mad she immediately called my dad to come over. My mom wasn't afraid in the slightest. She kept flirting with her boy toy. Her new flame I called Uncle Ning. When I got tired of reading, Uncle Ning would read to me. My grandma, fuming, stood by and scolded my mom, saying she wasn't being faithful to her husband, and asking what the Wang family had ever done to deserve this. Chapter 2. My mom wasn't one to back down, hands on her hips, ready to start yelling. My grandma quickly cut her off. All right, we'll wait until my son gets here. Today you two must get divorced. My mom rolled her eyes and said, "You'd better be able to make your son divorce me." My parents' marriage was a business alliance. At the time of the wedding, both families were at their peak, but soon after, my maternal grandparents' family went bankrupt. There were plenty of reasons for their collapse. My mom had always wanted to divorce my dad. They both had someone else they loved. My dad was head over heels for a poor college girl, worshipping her like a goddess, even photoshopping her into our family portrait as his phone wallpaper. At first, he only photoshopped his goddess into a picture of him and me, but I wasn't satisfied. I wouldn't allow a picture without my mom beside me, so he added her into a photo of the three of us together. Chapter 3. My mom loved poor college boys. They were each other's first love, but that college boy joined the army and died on a mission. Since then, the boy toys my mom found were all college boys. I knew she was reminiscing about her first love. Both my parents were sentimental people. My dad arrived shortly after. He immediately came over, picked me up, and kept comforting me. I was also happy and wanted him to play horse with me. My grandma immediately said, "Son, your wife is now openly cheating, and you're not doing anything about it. You're shameless, but we still have some dignity." My dad, furious, shouted, "Willow, what the hell is wrong with you? You're blatantly cheating on me." My mom rolled her eyes and said, "He's your son's playmate." My dad's attitude softened a bit, and he nodded at Uncle Ning, saying, "Thanks for taking care of my son. I'll give you a raise." My grandma, nearly dying from anger, shouted, "You worthless thing. I want you to divorce her." My dad hesitated and said, "Mom, if I divorce her, she'll take my son away." My mom rolled her eyes and retorted, "The son's mine anyway. Why should I give him to you?" My dad shot back, "He's my son too." My mom gritted her teeth and said, "Shut up, he came out of my womb." My dad responded, "Don't use that excuse. After he was born, I was the one who raised him. Now that he can run and jump, you want to swoop in and steal him. And you, how do you even take care of him? You're always finding playmates for him. Is that what being a mom is?" My mom wasn't backing down either. "If you know how to take care of him, then you do it. If you were there for him, would I need to find playmates? You just stand there and complain without feeling any pain." Chapter 4. I looked at my dad, then at my mom, and was about to tell them to stop arguing, but their phones rang at the same time. I saw that my dad's phone was displaying Sophia's name. "George, I'm back in the country. Will you pick me up at the airport?" Sophia, my dad's goddess. The eternal pain in his heart. My dad lost his voice, but my mom suddenly choked up and said, "Makoto, you didn't die." Makoto, my mom's idol. Every year on the Memorial Day, she would have me stand in front of his tombstone and shout, "Dad." My mom's story was that Makoto died without a child, leaving no heir, so she pretended to be his son to burn some paper money for him. Chapter 5. The worst thing is when the air suddenly becomes quiet. My parents exchanged glances, then quietly turned their eyes away. I said, "Mom, Dad, I'm hungry." My grandma, nearly dead from anger, cursed my dad, saying that even giving birth to a pig would be better than giving birth to him. She insisted they divorce. They both took me out to eat. Uncle Ning took care of me. He smiled at my dad, bowed to my mom, and took extra care of me. At the dinner table, I was the only one eating. My parents were both on their phones, sometimes sad, sometimes sighing, sometimes looking conflicted. I knew they were both reminiscing about their own lost loves. I felt a little sorry for them. Chapter 6. After dinner, I started feeling dizzy from the carbs and fell into a drowsy sleep. I felt my dad picking me up, and I peacefully snuggled into his arms and slept. I woke up in the afternoon. I yawned, got out of bed, drank a big glass of water, and went downstairs. Downstairs, my parents were discussing their divorce. My dad said, "Sophia is back. I have to give her a home." This time, my mom didn't mock my dad. With a sad face, she said, "Makoto didn't die. He's been undercover all these years, relying on our love to survive. I can't betray him." They both said at the same time, "Son." Then they fell silent again. My dad spoke first. "Take all the shared assets. I'll keep our son. You're still young, and you can have more children." My mom replied, "I'll leave with nothing, but I'll pay you 200,000 a month in alimony. You give me our son." They both looked at each other with disdain and said, "Go dream somewhere else, scum." Chapter 7. The atmosphere at home changed. Before, they had wanted to divorce. There was a time when my mom kissed her boy toy right in front of my dad, and my dad angrily said he wanted a divorce. There was a time when my dad looked at Sophia's photo in front of my mom, filled with sadness, saying, "Sophia, I'm sorry." My mom also said she wanted a divorce, but every time they talked about custody, they backed down, because they both knew the other wasn't a good person, and there was no way they could communicate. Now, they kept adding chips to the table, hoping to divorce and still win custody of me. Chapter 8. I don't know if I want them to divorce. Actually, deep down, I really don't want them to divorce, but I know they don't love each other anymore. My mom goes to pray at the temple, and her only wish is for my dad to die in a car accident. My dad is even worse. He encourages my mom to try extreme sports, saying he'll take good care of me. They both have true love outside with other men and women. When my mom is with her young lover, she becomes much more delicate. When she's with my dad, she's as vicious as she can be. She acts like a crazy woman. My dad looks at his true love with deep affection and pain every time. I really hope they can be happy and not sacrifice themselves for me. I'm older now, and I know I can't be too selfish, especially since they love me so much. I can't be selfish. Chapter 9. My dad secretly asked me, "Son, if your mom and I get divorced, and the judge asks you who you want to stay with, who will you choose?" I said, "I'll choose you, Dad." He was so moved that his eyes immediately welled up. He hugged me, and I hugged him back. We had a deep father-son bond. My mom also asked me, "Baby, will you choose to stay with Mom?" I immediately said, "I'll stay with Mom. We'll never be apart." My mom started wiping away her tears, promising she would never be apart from me. Chapter 10. My mom took me to meet her idol. Makoto was very tall and imposing, completely different from the boy toy I had met before. Makoto was very warm toward me. He played with me when he saw me and even brought me a gift. He assured my mom, "Don't worry, I'll take good care of you both from now on. I'll never take on any undercover missions again." My mom said, "Makoto, I'm not planning to have another child in this lifetime. I only have one son, and I won't let anyone make him suffer." I was touched. "This is my mom." Makoto nodded and said, "I agree. We already have David. We don't need any more children. I don't want you to suffer either." Makoto looked at me and said, "Good son. Call me Dad. I'm your dad. I had to leave your mom when I went on a mission because I didn't know she was already pregnant with you." I was speechless. I clearly remembered my grandma doing paternity tests with my dad's hair and mine many times. If I were to call my mom's lover Dad, I would feel like I was betraying my dad. But seeing my mom's expectant gaze, I couldn't bear to make her sad, just like she couldn't bear to make me sad. I also remembered that I had been calling his tombstone Dad for years. Calling a living person Dad didn't seem that wrong. So, I steeled myself and said, "Dad." He was so moved that tears started flowing. His voice trembled as he said, "Dad knows you've been visiting my tomb all these years. I'll be with you, David, and watch you grow up." I opened my mouth in surprise. They both hugged me, leaning against each other, starting to discuss their future happy life together. Chapter 11. Makoto was in the army, and they discussed that after my mom's divorce, she would take me to live with him on the military base. In the family compound, Makoto had everything there, and many children for me to play with. Mom said she would cook meals for him every day when he came home. I remembered that Mom couldn't even fry an egg. One time, my dad got the idea to cook for me. My mom, worried he would steal me away, mocked him cruelly. My dad, flustered, knocked over a soy sauce bottle. My mom didn't help. Instead, she immediately took out her phone and started filming, mocking my dad for being clumsy while filming. At that time, my dad was busy trying to salvage the burnt beef. It was me who went to steady the soy sauce bottle. Makoto was touched. I raised my little hand and asked, "Makoto, Dad, can we hire a maid?" Makoto apologized. "David, there are too few rooms here. We can't fit a maid." My mom lovingly said, "I don't want outsiders in the house. I just want us three to be together." I fell into deep thought. Chapter 12. My dad also took me to meet his goddess. Aunt Sophia was very beautiful. She spoke very gently, and she smelled nice. Under my dad's expectant gaze, I ruthlessly called out, "Mom." Aunt Sophia swore to my dad, "George, don't worry. I will take good care of David and be a good stepmother." My dad was very moved and said, "Sophia, you're really lucky. Being with me means you get such a sensible son." I felt Aunt Sophia's arms stiffen around me. Then my dad continued, "Sophia, I hope that after we get married, you can get sterilized. I don't plan on having more children. I have only one son, and I don't want anyone to compete with him for the inheritance." I was touched. "This is my dad." My dad added, "Of course, I'll get sterilized too." Aunt Sophia's whole body stiffened. She asked, "You don't plan on having children in the future?" My dad looked at me with fatherly love and said, "Yes, having David is enough. Giving him a little brother or sister would threaten his position, and I can't bear that." My dad continued, "Oh, and I don't want the family structure to change too much." When Willow was around, she was a full-time caregiver for our child. When he mentioned my mom, my dad's brow furrowed deeply, though he quickly masked it. Clearly, he wasn't very satisfied with my mom's childcare skills. My dad then smiled and praised my mom. "See how well she raised David. Sophia, I hope that after we get married, you won't work anymore and will focus on taking care of David. Also, you should first get some certifications, like in child psychology and childcare. You should be more familiar with David's courses than he is, so you can tutor him." Looking at Aunt Sophia encouragingly, my dad said, "I know you're a quick learner and can definitely do it. Of course, I'll give you a monthly living allowance." My dad had also asked my mom to get certifications and to tutor me in piano, equestrian, golf, English, French, and Spanish. My mom told him to get lost. Aunt Sophia's face stiffened. She said she needed to go to the bathroom. When she came back, she was once again a brave woman, nodding and saying, "I'll do it for you, George. I'm willing to do anything." My dad said, "The three of us will definitely have a very happy life together." I was speechless. Chapter 13. My parents' divorce battle was intense. Every day they would negotiate for 5 minutes, then curse each other for an hour. Sometimes I would watch from the side, even playing the piano for them. When they were calm, I played Mariage d'Amour. When they started arguing, I played Croatian Rhapsody. I couldn't participate in their arguments, but I could accompany them with music. We were a family, and families should do things together, including fighting. In kindergarten, the teacher asked us to draw my home. On one piece of paper, I drew 3 homes. All of them were my homes. One home with Mom, Uncle Makoto, and me. One home with Dad, Mom, and me. One home with Dad, Aunt Sophia, and me. If I rearranged the combinations, Uncle Makoto and Aunt Sophia could also give me a home. I fell into deep thought. This drawing directly won the Best Creativity Award. And then my parents were called to the school, where they talked with the teacher for a long time. In the end, the teacher hugged me and said, "Child, you've suffered. If you ever feel wronged, come to me, and I'll give you a home." I was speechless. "Thank you, teacher." Chapter 14. My parents were going to court for their divorce. They wanted the judge to make the fairest decision. In the courtroom, I sat in the audience. They wouldn't let me sit next to either of them, as it could influence the judge's judgment. My mom cried bitterly, saying how hard her life had been, how much of a scumbag my dad was, and how she was raising me in a widowed way. My dad started wiping away his tears, saying how promiscuous my mom was, always cheating, and began pulling out notes he had written about how to raise a child. My mom pulled out her trump card, saying she would get her uterus removed and swore that I would be her only child, asking the judge to give me to her. My dad took out a pair of scissors. The judge jumped, almost diving under the desk. The judge said, "The defendant is also the plaintiff's client. Please calm down." My dad stood up and growled at my mom. "Willow, you crazy woman. Do you believe I'll do self-castration right now? I will only ever have one son, and that's David." Saying that, my dad raised the scissors, ready to bring them down. Chapter 15. My mom wasn't backing down either. Unable to find any tools, she dragged Makoto into the room. She immediately said, "Judge, I'll marry him in the future. I can't prove my determination to you right now, but my future husband can." After speaking, she looked at Makoto expectantly. The judge widened his eyes, looking at Makoto in terror. Everyone stared at Makoto. Makoto closed his eyes and gritted his teeth, saying, "If he does self-castration first, I will do it too." My dad immediately stopped his motion and pulled Aunt Sophia up. My dad said to the judge, "Judge, this is my future wife, and she is also willing to undergo sterilization." The judge's face was filled with pure confusion. My dad nudged Aunt Sophia, prompting her to express her stance. Aunt Sophia closed her eyes, gritted her teeth, and said, "I'm willing." I stared at them seriously. These were my family members. In the end, the court officers arrived to prevent everyone from spilling blood on the spot. Chapter 16. My parents, Makoto and Sophia agreed to go to the hospital together the next day. Whoever didn't show up would admit defeat. I felt very excited. I looked up seriously at these adults. They all seemed so cool. My parents were going to take me home. Whenever we went out, we always took the Alfred nanny car. After getting in, my mom said to Makoto, "Makoto, come home with me. Spend more time with David. Let him get used to you." My dad immediately retorted, "Sophia, you should come home with me too." So, they both got in the car. The car was eerily quiet. The driver was in front, occasionally sneaking peeks in the rearview mirror. I sat inside, lowered the table, and started doing my homework. I really envy adults. They talk about love every day and never have to do homework. Chapter 17. Makoto had a month-long vacation. So, he moved into our house. Aunt Sophia didn't have work, so she also moved in with us. I was very excited. There were more people at home, and it was lively. Makoto needed to have a talk with my dad. Aunt Sophia needed to have a talk with my mom. I was in the study, having my French lesson. When I finished my lesson and went downstairs, I saw they were already in a scuffle. My grandma just came in. She almost passed out from anger, shouting, "What are you doing? Stop it, all of you." My mom's hair was a mess. Aunt Sophia had a huge slap mark on her face. My dad had a bruise on his cheek. Makoto was shielding my mom, and he wasn't hurt. As expected, the legendary warrior. Chapter 18. My grandma was nearly driven mad. When she found out that the two guests at home were my parents' potential remarriage partners, she stormed off. That afternoon, my grandma came back with another lady, saying she was the one, my dad's remarriage candidate. My mom, putting on lipstick, glanced over and said, "Have a seat. You've got two ahead of you. The first one isn't even divorced yet, and the second one is just waiting for the position." The lady directly said, "It's fine. I can compete for the position. I heard things are pretty straightforward here. Just tell me the conditions." Aunt Sophia, sipping her tea, casually said, "The woman needs to have her uterus removed, and the man needs to self-castrate." The lady twitched her lips and said, "You guys are crazy." Then she ran off. My grandma was furious. She grabbed me and dragged me into the room. She started talking bad about my mom again, saying, "David, if your parents divorce, don't follow your mom. Once she finds a new dad, she won't love you anymore. She'll have her own children." I said, "My mom says I'm her only child. She's going to have surgery to remove her uterus." I looked at my grandma and continued, "My dad is also going to self-castrate." My grandma clutched her chest and searched through my room for a while. Finally, she grabbed a French dictionary and stormed out. I eagerly ran after her. Chapter 19. My grandma stormed into my dad's study. My dad was working in front of his computer. My grandma went straight for him, hitting him with the thick dictionary. It looked painful. I panicked and rushed to hug my grandma's leg, crying, "Grandma, please stop. You're going to kill him if you keep hitting him." My grandma slapped her thigh and wailed, "What did I do wrong to deserve this couple? From the moment they married, they've been the laughingstock of the circle. You've been acting like a turtle, refusing to divorce, and now you're not satisfied with being cuckolded. You want to be a eunuch too. How did I end up with such a debt-collecting child?" My dad, red-faced, shouted, "Mom, what nonsense are you talking? I'm not a turtle. Willow and those people. That's Western etiquette. Don't listen to what people outside say." My grandma was so angry her breathing became ragged, and she said, "So you want to be a eunuch then?" My dad replied, "Mom, why do you care about this?" My dad gritted his teeth and said, "That woman, Willow, will do anything to take David away. Can you bear to let your only grandson be taken away?" My grandma began crying about our family's misfortune. She cried, I cried, and we both hugged each other, crying together. Chapter 20. My grandma didn't leave. She had always disliked my parents. Mainly, she couldn't stand my mom. My mom is fooling around outside every day, and in my grandma's words, she doesn't even wipe her mouth. Because of my mom, my grandma had argued with my dad many times. The reason my dad didn't divorce my mom wasn't because he still had feelings for her, but because he felt that as long as he wasn't with his true love, it didn't matter who he married. When my dad saw my mom cheating, he would go out and find substitutes for his true love without feeling guilty. Also, my mom was truly crazy. My dad was afraid he couldn't outmatch her and wasn't confident he could win custody. My mom felt the same way. Usually, my grandma stayed at her own place and rarely lived with us. This time, she sat in the living room, staring hard at the four adults in the house. The next day, they didn't make it to the hospital, because my grandma grabbed a kitchen knife and followed them. She said, "Whoever wants to remove something, whoever wants to self-castrate, come on, I'll do it for you." My grandma looked at me. I puffed out my little chest and stood beside her. She said, "David, be my assistant." My mom rolled her eyes and kept letting Makoto paint her toenails. My dad was still training Aunt Sophia. turning her into a qualified childcare specialist. Chapter 21. It would still be a while before the next court session. My parents were still negotiating. Makoto and Aunt Sophia also joined the negotiations. When my mom tried to hit my dad, Makoto would step in to help her. Aunt Sophia would also jump in to help my dad, and the four of them would end up brawling together. While the court date hadn't come yet, the date for my kindergarten parent-teacher meeting had. My dad said, "You shouldn't go to this meeting. Just look at that slap mark on your face." My mom said, "You should look at your black eye before you talk." Makoto and Aunt Sophia normally acted very serious. Makoto told me about his years undercover and taught me loyalty to the country. Aunt Sophia told me about her life studying abroad and taught me to see the world. They both played with me every day. I knew my parents were actually quite exhausted. As my mom put it, I was like a monkey who had gained wisdom, always full of endless energy. If she played with me for an hour, she felt completely drained. My dad had much better stamina, but he had to work. He could work 20 hours a day, and in his heart, besides me, there was only work and his Sophia. But I had seen my dad's search engine history. He had searched, "Does being too tired lower a man's sex drive?" I once asked my mom what sex drive meant. She asked me why I wanted to know, and when I told her the truth, she went to mock my dad. My dad got angry, saying it was only because he worked too long and too hard. Chapter 22. My dad was already 37. I really felt sorry for him. I also felt sorry for my mom. So, I let Makoto and Aunt Sophia play with me instead. The three of us had a great time. Sometimes, when I looked at our reflections in the floor-to-ceiling window, I felt a little confused. My parents and my rooms were on the second floor, all very spacious, because it was the critical period of their divorce. They were very wary of each other. Neither allowed the other to spend too much time alone with me, in case some trick was used to take me away. So at night, they both had to sleep with me. Makoto and Aunt Sophia's guest rooms were on the third floor. Chapter 23. But Aunt Sophia wasn't happy. Aunt Sophia asked my dad, "Are you really going to divorce?" My dad immediately replied, "Don't insult me. Of course, I'm going to divorce." Aunt Sophia hesitated for a moment and said, "I know you've suffered these years." My dad felt a bit better and said, "All this suffering, for my son, I think it's worth it." Aunt Sophia said, "Since you're getting a divorce, why are you still sleeping in the same room as her? I can agree to not having children, but shouldn't you keep some distance from your soon-to-be ex-wife?" Aunt Sophia continued, "Wherever she goes, you immediately follow her. Your eyes are always on her, and it hurts me to see it." My dad said, "This is the critical period of the divorce. I'm worried she's going to do something behind my back. My son is still undecided, and I'm afraid she'll win him over, so I have to keep an eye on her." My dad, somewhat dissatisfied, said, "I told you to bond with my son, to get along with him. Look at you, always thinking about love and romance. If you spent more time thinking about my son, would I have to get involved myself? I have to fight with my soon-to-be ex-wife during the day and work late into the night. I'm tired too." Aunt Sophia immediately replied, "I will do my best to be a good mother to David." Later, my dad gave me a summary. He said if anyone ever questions me or blames me, I must never admit to anything, and always blame the other person, pushing all the fault onto them. My dad teaches me everything. He likes teaching me evil magic. Chapter 24. My dad also said that in this world, the most important things are your own bloodline, followed by money and power. He said both are equally important. Everything else is just fleeting. I asked him why he always loved Aunt Sophia. My dad said, "Loving her means loving my youth, reminiscing about my youth. Besides, loving her doesn't cost me anything. I can love several people at once, but I don't have the energy for that." After my parents divorced, my dad also taught me, if your opponent is crazy, you have to be crazier than them. Otherwise, they'll think you're easy to bully. I nodded. I asked him, "Then how do you win?" My dad said, "I can't say victory is guaranteed, but at least I'll get a draw. Maintain the status quo. Your mom will think like I do." I nodded. I shook my head, trying to shake off all the knowledge that I couldn't process. Chapter 25. Not only was Aunt Sophia unhappy, but Makoto was unhappy too. Sometimes, Makoto wanted to kiss my mom. When my mom saw my dad, she immediately had to follow him and see what he was doing. My mom was just as wary of my dad. Makoto looked at my mom, his eyes filled with restrained affection, and asked, "Willow, have you fallen for another man?" My mom was shocked and asked, "Who?" Makoto didn't answer. My mom quickly hugged him, comforting him. "Baby, what's wrong? Did I neglect you? Once all this is over, the three of us can live happily together." Makoto, his voice a little rough, asked, "Really? You can really give up your life here? Will you come with me to suffer?" My mom looked at our golden, extravagant villa and sneered, "This place is a pile of trash. I can't stand it for another minute." Just then, my dad walked by, sneering as well, Some people like to have it both ways. They've lived here for so many years, and now they say they can't stand it. My mom snapped. Who are you talking about? My mom immediately put her hands on her hips, ready for a battle. My dad wasn't backing down either. Whoever responds, that's who I'm talking about. Chapter 26. Makoto took my mom out to the yard. I quickly followed on my bicycle. Makoto said, well, you should be sleeping in separate rooms now. You're getting a divorce, but you're still sleeping together. It doesn't seem right. My mom furrowed her brows and said, it really doesn't seem right. She then said, but I can't not tuck David in. What if he gets misled when I'm not around? Makoto also seemed troubled, squatting down to talk to me. David, will you stay with both your dad and mom? Okay. I nodded. I truly liked Makoto and Aunt Sophia. They were both good people and very capable, and I really liked them. Makoto said, see, our son will choose us. My mom replied. She says that to her dad too. I explained. It's because I don't want you guys to be sad. My mom was touched. What a good, obedient son. Chapter 27. In the end, my mom said, fine, if you're worried, then you can come and sleep with us too. I looked at my mom, confused. That night, the nanny gave me a bath. I climbed into my huge 4-meter bed, smelling all nice. I played with my toes for a while, and then my dad came in. He lay down beside me, letting me rest on his arm, and said, good son, come let me tell you a story. I nodded, looking at my dad expectantly. My dad started, I'll tell you the story of how I took David on a world tour. My parents always made up stories. The main characters were always them and me, taking me on a world tour and encountering all sorts of animals, flowers, trees, and such. In my dad's story, the mom falls in love with a young man they meet on the trip, abandons my dad and me, and then my dad and I live happily ever after. In my mom's story, the dad falls in love with an ice cream vendor they meet on the road, abandons my mom and me, and then my mom and I live happily ever after. I was speechless. My dad was telling the part where he took me to a small town full of red houses and we ran into a beggar. He said, David is a kind boy. When he saw the beggar, he kindly gave him a steamed bun, but the beggar wasn't satisfied. She pulled out a payment code and asked David to scan it and pay her money. Dad got furious. This person had such poor character. Just as he was about to go up and argue with her, he took a closer look and guess what? Baby. Guess who it was? Chapter 28. I didn't guess, because in Dad's stories, the beggar, who was ill, abandoned by her young lover, and destitute, was always Mom. At that moment, Mom came in. She rolled her eyes at Dad. Her entrance interrupted Dad's story. Just as Dad was about to boast, he saw Makoto standing behind Mom. Dad looked at her, puzzled. Mom lay beside me, kissed my cheek, and said to Makoto, come on, let's tell him a story too. Makoto gave Dad a polite smile and carefully lay down beside my mom. Then, they both propped up their heads and smiled at me kindly. I turned and looked at Dad. Dad had a dark expression, and he called Sophia and to come and sleep with me. Chapter 29. Mom was also telling a story. She said, David was sneaked into the castle by his dad. Mom couldn't see David, and she kept thinking of ways to rescue him. Dad married a new wife. The new wife didn't like David, wouldn't give him food, and made him do jobs only adults should do. Dad only cared about his new wife and ignored David's situation. David called Mom every day for help, and even tried calling the police. But then Dad suddenly turned into a monster. He locked everyone out and tortured David. I glanced at Dad. He was starting a timer. They had agreed to a 5-minute turn each to criticize the other. When one person was speaking, the other wasn't allowed to speak. Mom continued. Mom found a knight riding a giant dragon. David's Makoto dad heard about David's situation, got furious, and took Mom. They rode the giant dragon and stormed the castle. Dad got beaten so badly that his face was bruised, and David was saved. David was taken by Mom and Makoto dad to Makoto dad's military base, where his army was. No one dared to take David away anymore, until one day, David met a homeless man. At this point, Aunt Sophia walked in. Mom asked me, sweetheart, guess who that homeless man was? I didn't need to guess. It was Dad. In Mom's story, the homeless man who ate out of trash heaps, was chased by people, and had one eye and missing limbs was always Dad. Chapter 30. Sophia Auntie also lay down beside Dad. On my bed, there were 4 adults lying down. Everyone stared at each other. No one spoke. I stared at the ceiling, thinking that next time I draw a family picture, I could make this scene. I would definitely win the Best Creativity Award again. I rubbed my chin and smiled. Then, my grandma came in. She froze when she saw so many people in my bed, holding a picture book. She snapped, the child needs to sleep. What are you 2 mistresses doing in here? Aunt Sophia looked hurt. Makoto felt a bit awkward, but no one spoke. No one moved. Grandma raised the picture book to hit Dad. He quickly stood up and whispered, are you even my mom? Grandma was even angrier. She stopped talking to Dad and said to Aunt Sophia, "Get up." Aunt Sophia sat on the nearby sofa. Grandma lay beside me and began reading the picture book. In the end, Grandma couldn't hold out. I stared at her with wide eyes. Dad took over the picture book. After Grandma left, Aunt Sophia came back. From then on, there were 4 adults trying to put me to sleep in my bed. Grandma also came to my room to sleep. She slept on the big sofa because she thought my parents were crazy. Chapter 31. At the kindergarten's parent-teacher meeting, my mom and dad refused to give in to each other. In the end, not only did they both insist on going, they also wanted to bring Makoto and Aunt Sophia along. For the kindergarten's parent-child activities, anything requiring physical strength was done by Makoto and me, and anything requiring skill and dexterity was handled by Aunt Sophia. I won first place. That had never happened before. When my mom and dad took me to these activities, we always lost miserably. My dad wasn't the best at physical activities, and my mom was terrible at handicrafts. Whenever the two of them teamed up with me for sports, they would inevitably start arguing halfway through. But Makoto and Aunt Sophia worked together quite well. When I stood on stage to receive the award, the teacher gave me the prize and warmly hugged me. I grinned brightly at her. The teacher, feeling even more tender toward me, said, "David, even though you've changed both your dad and your mom, I believe in you. Your optimistic attitude won't be defeated by any setbacks." In society, many children who were switched at birth only find their biological parents as adults. You're so young and you've already found yours. This makes me happy for you. Your adoptive father and mother are watching from the side, and they're happy too. They both love you very much. I said, "Thank you, teacher." Chapter 32. After getting the award, I was surrounded by a group of classmates. They chirped, "David, how did you change your dad and mom? Where did you buy your new dad and mom? I want to go buy 2 as well." Someone else said, "David, why do you have so many dads and moms? It's not fair. It's not fair." Another one retorted, "You guys don't understand anything. David's parents are going to sell him." Someone else responded, "Nonsense. They're getting divorced. My parents divorced too, and that's how I got a new stepdad and stepmom. Boo-hoo. I hate stepmoms. I hate stepdads." Someone asked, "David, when your parents get divorced, who will you live with?" "When your parents get divorced, you can only live with one of them," another said. "At first they'll say their love for you won't change, but after a while, they'll change. They'll even say you're being unreasonable. Adults are all bad people. Adults like to lie to kids." They kept talking. "David, come live at my house and be my mom's son. My mom says she wants to steal you home. David, come live at my house. My parents will let you use them. They hate me so much. They make me study every day. David, I'll give you a home. David." I froze. I didn't know who I should go with. It was only then that I realized my parents were really going to get divorced. When they divorced, one of them would have to leave. I stopped talking. Chapter 33. I was thinking about life. My parents have their own lives. They should have their own happiness. They shouldn't tie themselves to me for my sake. I should wish them well. Yes, I want to see my mom happy and shy with Makoto. I also want to see my dad calm and content with Aunt Sophia. But I'm a bad child. I understand the reasoning, but I don't want my mom and dad to really separate. I don't know what to do. My parents hugged me to comfort me, and they cried. Then they started blaming each other. They looked at me and went silent. My parents took me to the hospital to see the doctor. That's when I realized I couldn't hear any sounds anymore. I burst into tears. I wanted to find my mom, but when she came, I thought she wanted to divorce, wanted to leave me, so I pushed her away. I didn't want to be a burden to my mom. Dad came. I didn't want Dad either. Dad also wanted to be with Aunt Sophia. They would have new kids, and Aunt Sophia would turn into a wicked stepmother, bullying me every day. Adults are all liars. In the end, Grandma hugged me and took me home. Grandma's mouth opened and closed with a fierce look. I held onto her neck. Grandma hugged me to sleep. I clung tightly to her hand, and I fell asleep. Chapter 34. When I woke up, I saw my parents by my bed. I cried loudly again. I wanted Grandma. Grandma quickly came in. She gave me water. After drinking, I grabbed Grandma's hand and started packing clothes. I took my big yellow backpack, stuffed a few clothes in it, and pulled Grandma's hand. Heading out the door, I pointed at the car, signaling Grandma to drive. Grandma settled me in the car and talked to my parents. I only glanced at them from the corner of my eye. I hugged my backpack, ready to leave them. Chapter 35. Grandma's house was very quiet. She had many flowers. Her house was a courtyard, not a villa. Grandma had a dog. Every day after school, it was Grandma who picked me up. I knew my parents often secretly came to see me, watching me cry. I didn't feel good about it either, but I didn't want to live with my parents anymore because of me. They were no longer happy, and I didn't want them to be unhappy. but there was nothing I could do. I could only not follow them and let them live their own lives. Grandma often gestured in front of me. I knew she wanted me to speak, to hear, but I couldn't hear and couldn't say anything. I felt like I might have lost my voice and my hearing to the bad people in my parents' stories. Chapter 36. One day, I was playing in the alley. Grandma was sitting at the door, fanning herself with a fan. Suddenly, a Donald Duck and a little white rabbit appeared. Donald Duck was pulling a tricycle. The little white rabbit had a large cotton candy on its shoulder. I stared at them in surprise. Wasn't this Donald Duck and the little white rabbit from my parents' stories? Donald Duck always made a living by pulling the cart. Every time we went somewhere, it was Donald Duck who would pull the cart. David sat on it and could pass through narrow paths filled with flowers and big trees, seeing many, many beautiful sights. The little white rabbit was the cotton candy seller. The little white rabbit had a fight with its good friend. They used to sell ice cream together, but the rabbit's friend didn't want to share the profits anymore and kicked the little white rabbit out. So, the little white rabbit started selling cotton candy. The little white rabbit was optimistic and cheerful, and soon had many customers for its cotton candy. Chapter 37. Donald Duck gestured at me, inviting me onto the cart. The little white rabbit handed me the cotton candy. I looked at them nervously. I was afraid they might be bad people. I turned to look at Grandma, and she picked me up and put me on the cart, sitting beside me. Then I felt at ease. Every day after school, as soon as I walked out of the school gate, Donald Duck would pull the tricycle to pick me up. The little white rabbit would hand me beautiful cotton candy. I ate the sweet cotton candy, sitting with Grandma, watching the changing street scenes, seeing the green leaves gently floating, and the breeze brushing my face. I thought, the David in the story must be so happy. He could see so many different sights and meet so many different animals and characters, each with their own past and story. He got to experience so many different things with his parents. I thought about my parents. Chapter 38. I don't know why they stopped coming to see me. Are adults all liars? Do they not love me anymore? I suddenly wanted to go back and see if they had a new baby. I wrote to Grandma, I want to go home. Grandma hesitated for a moment, then said something to Donald Duck. Donald Duck turned back to look at me. I gave him a big smile. If my parents didn't want me, I would just follow Donald Duck and pull the cart. I'd pull the cart to support Grandma and me. From then on, I'd be like a little cabbage in the field, unloved. The weather was still hot. The tricycle had a small fan hanging on it, blowing at me. I realized I hadn't been to those training classes in a long time. Chapter 39. The tricycle moved for a long time. I felt that Donald Duck was getting tired. Its back was hunched. The little white rabbit was helping push the cart from behind. I wrote to Grandma, Grandma, let's take a taxi. They're tired. Grandma shook her head and replied, they're not tired. I opened my mouth wide. Maybe animals don't feel tired. I didn't understand. By the time we arrived home, it had already been an hour. There was no one at home. I stood at the door, not knowing what to do. Then, suddenly, Donald Duck collapsed. Grandma and the little white rabbit rushed over to check, and then they took off Donald Duck's head. I screamed, Grandma, it's going to die. And then Dad's face was revealed. Dad looked so disheveled. His face was bright red, his hair soaked with sweat, sticking to his forehead. He was gasping for breath, and Grandma quickly gave him a bottle of water. Chapter 40. I cried out, Dad, Dad, don't die. Whoa. At that moment, the little white rabbit also took off its headgear, revealing Mom's face. Mom also looked so disheveled. Her face was bright red, her hair soaked with sweat, clinging together. Mom had never looked so messy before. She was always very beautiful. I looked at her and cried, Mom, whoa, Dad is going to die. Whoa. Then, Dad was urgently rushed to the hospital. Mom also collapsed. They both lay on hospital beds. I heard the sound of the ambulance rushing by, and I heard the doctor say it was heat stroke. I heard Mom and Dad apologizing to me. I also cried and said I was sorry. Grandma cried beside us. Chapter 41. I lay between Mom and Dad, placing their hands on my belly. Their hands rose and fell with my breathing. We spoke from the heart, telling each other how much we missed and loved each other. They apologized to me, saying they would never divorce again and would stay with me. But I didn't want them to stay this way. I shook my head and said, Dad, Mom, you want me to be happy, and I want you both to be happy. I just didn't know what to do before. I was thinking, I'm sorry, I scared you, but I hope you can be with the person you love. I will slowly adjust. The thought that they might not love me as much as before made my heart hurt, but I must be strong. The David in the story faces many difficulties but always stays strong and comes up with clever ways to punish the bad people. I can do that too. They held me, and we didn't speak. I smelled the scent on them and fell asleep. Chapter 42. My mom and dad didn't get divorced. They don't speak badly about each other in front of me anymore, and they don't argue in front of me. Sometimes, Mom even gives Dad's clothes a little smile. telling him to come home early. Dad picks out skirts for Mom and asks me if they look good. I think it's a bit creepy. Dad changed his phone's wallpaper to a picture of me, Mom, and him. Sophia Auntie sent him a message with a picture of the three of us and wrote, "George, where is my place?" Dad replied, "Your place is in my heart." Sophia Auntie was speechless. Makoto also messaged Mom, "Willow, is David feeling better? I miss you and your son." Mom replied, "I'm sorry, I can't bring him to live with you." Makoto asked, "What about the vows we once made?" Mom was silent. Chapter 43. I didn't want to see them without their own love. On my 6th birthday, I held my own birthday party at kindergarten. Then I told my parents that I had a surprise for them. My parents sat properly in the living room, looking at me with loving smiles. I then went to open the door and invited Makoto and Sophia Auntie in. I saw my grandma's eyes go black. I said to my parents, "Dad, Mom, I also want you to be happy. We can let Makoto Dad and Sophia Mom live with us." My grandma's eyes went black again. She said to me, "Sweetheart, we shouldn't interfere with adult matters. Why are you worrying about them?" I said seriously, "I want all of us to be happy. Grandma, I don't want Mom and Dad to sacrifice their own lives and happiness for me. It's not fair to Makoto Dad and Sophia Mom either." Grandma pouted, clearly disapproving of Makoto and Sophia Auntie. She said, "Isn't this their own doing? You only have one set of parents. Don't go calling everyone Mom and Dad." But Grandma held back. She looked at my parents and said, "Forget about divorce. You can live however you want, but to the outside world, just say your friend's staying over. You've embarrassed the Wong family enough already." Chapter 44. From then on, I had 2 dads and 2 moms. I had 3 homes. My parents would sleep with me and tell me stories. Dad and Sophia Auntie would sleep with me and tell me stories. Mom and Makoto would also tell me stories and sleep with me. Sometimes I would also go with Mom to stay in the staff quarters and be with Makoto. When Makoto had a break, he would come to stay at our house. He and Dad went from not talking much at first to becoming friends and even going fishing together. Mom and Sophia Auntie would recommend good makeup or skincare products to each other. Although Dad and Mom still secretly rolled their eyes at each other, their outward relationship was great, and they became the model couple in the eyes of others. They both said that my parents were like a prodigal son and daughter returning, priceless and irreplaceable. We were a happy and loving family. 3 families in total. The end. Throw flowers.